Chapter 84. This must be stopped. Divine Pill Peak. Ye Danxia was earnestly sensing the medicinal herb in front of her. After half an hour, she said somewhat uncertainly,
"Has this yellowwort grass medicinal efficacy dropped to about 80%?
The senior brother in charge of instructing her immediately praised.
It's actually 82%. But junior sister Ye, you've only been learning for a few days, and can already sense the herb's efficacy. That means you're definitely going to become an outstanding alchemist."
At that point, the senior brother's expression became even more earnest. Celestial spiritual root, and talent in alchemy. This junior sister Ye likely had boundless prospects. Moreover, she was also the sect master's cherished disciple. With the sect master's influence, he would surely pave the way for her. In the future, Ye Danxia would definitely become a key figure in Tianxing sect.
Really?
Ye Danxia showed a shy expression.
I tried for so long, and could only barely sense some of the efficacy, and it's still not accurate. I thought my aptitude was terrible.
Senior brother Wang immediately laughed.
Junior sister Ye, your progress is already very fast. Alchemy is vast and profound. Many people can't even get started despite studying their entire lives. Even those with good talent often need 1 or 2 months just to get started. But you succeeded in just a few days. That already makes you a peerless genius.
A trace of joy flashed in Ye Danxia's eyes.
Senior brother, then I really have a chance to become an alchemist.
Senior brother Wang nodded with certainty.
A very high chance. Within 5 years, you should be able to become an official alchemist.
Everyone knew how difficult it was to become an alchemist. If it were before hearing that she could become a proper alchemist in 5 years, Ye Danxia would probably be overjoyed. But in that moment, she suddenly recalled the talk she had heard about a peerless alchemy genius who suddenly appeared in the marketplace. They said she was flashy and confident, with a flair similar to Yunjin's. But her extraordinary alchemy talent fully justified such boldness. Ye Danxia couldn't help but be strangely concerned about this person. She asked,
Lately, I heard there's a peerless genius in the marketplace when it comes to alchemy, and she's a young woman. I wonder, how far am I from her level?
Senior brother Wang was stunned for a moment. He looked at Ye Danxia, a little dumbfounded. She really was quite talented, but how could she compare to that person in the marketplace? That person had directly broken through to first-rank alchemist in just 4 days, and was already a second-rank alchemist now. For most people, reaching second rank would take decades of painstaking training. Otherwise it was impossible. Although Ye Danxia had decent talent, compared to her, what could he even say?
Is the gap really that big?
Ye Danxia's gaze dimmed slightly. Senior brother Wang gave a strained smile. He wanted to comfort this junior sister Ye, but what if she actually believed it, and started thinking she could also reach second rank in 4 days? All he could say was,
Junior sister Ye, let's not compare ourselves to such monstrous geniuses. That woman's alchemy talent is terrifying. She's either a heaven-blessed prodigy cultivated by a holy land, or a hidden ace from a super sect. We're just disciples of a mid-tier sect. How could we compare with them? Of course, junior sister Ye, you don't need to underestimate yourself. Disciples from big sects grow up with the best resources and teachers. Their starting point is far above ours. But as long as we keep working hard, it's not impossible to catch up.
Senior brother Wang was worried Ye Danxia would be too discouraged. But Ye Danxia actually agreed wholeheartedly.
That's right. Those big sect disciples just started off higher than us. Senior brother Wang, I'm definitely going to surpass that girl one day. So what if she's a second-rank alchemist? I can be one too.
Senior brother Wang. Was that what he meant? Whatever, let junior sister Ye interpret it however she wants. Senior brother Wang smiled and said,
Junior sister Ye, why focus so much on those disciples from the major sects? That aside, if you become an alchemist, Yunjing won't be able to compete with you anymore. You could crush her with ease. Wouldn't that feel amazing?
Ye Danxia's eyes lit up, but she still feigned modesty.
Xiaojing and I are good friends. Senior brother, don't say that.
The entire Tianxing sect knew very well what kind of relationship Ye Danxia and Yunjin really had. Yet every time these two met, they still called each other sisters so sweetly. Everyone simply assumed it was some kind of personal quirk.
All right. I won't say any more.
Senior brother Wang chuckled.
Junior sister Ye, it's already noon. Go get some rest.
Ye Danxia obediently agreed. When she returned to her residence, she overheard nearby disciples discussing Gu Jinghong's strange behavior that morning. After listening for a while, Ye Danxia let out a sigh. When Gu Jinghong first appeared, she thought this flamboyant second senior brother must be formidable. But with just one encounter, he became Yunjin's servant. And now, he was behaving like a madman, completely incomprehensible. A lunatic like that. She'd better stay away from him in the future. As she was thinking this, she heard a disciple beside her say,
Sigh, a perfectly fine senior brother Wu turned into a lunatic. Who knows how Yunjing has been tormenting him in private?
Senior brother Gu probably wishes he could just die and be done with it.
There's a limit to getting revenge. This Yunjing really has gone too far.
With a master-servant contract in place, Yunjin must have known he came over today. It might have even been her idea. Senior brother Gu is bloodthirsty by nature. He would be the perfect knife. If I were Yunjin, I wouldn't just make him do silly things like that. I'd have him kill my enemies. Wouldn't that be perfect?
How do you know she hadn't already thought of that? Haven't you heard? Those 5 senior brothers who offended Yunjin nearly got killed by Gu Jinghong this morning. It was only because some disciples showed up to watch that he pretended to be watching them practice swordsmanship.
What's there to watch about sword practice? He was definitely looking for a chance to get rid of them. After all, he's the one doing it while Yunjing can stay behind the scenes and deny everything.
It's that terrifying. If that's the case, then who does Yunjin hate the most?
As everyone gossiped, Ye Danxia's expression suddenly changed. The others noticed her too and suddenly realized something. One by one, they shut their mouths. Yes. If you had to name the person Yunjin hated the most, it could only be Ye Danxia. No one dared speak further, and quietly dispersed. Ye Danxia's expression shifted for a while. A cold gleam flashed in her eyes. Yunjin was acting so arrogantly and lawlessly that she had even driven senior brother Gu mad. How could she allow her sister to continue down this mistaken path? Yes, this must be stopped.
Danxia, I heard your studies have been going well lately.
Zhao Wuji said with a kind smile.
It was worth it for me to pull some strings and get you into Divine Pill Peak for learning.
Thank you, Master.
Ye Danxia's eyes moved slightly, and she said,
Master, I heard second senior brother came by this morning.
At the mention of Gu Jinghong, Zhao Wuji showed a helpless expression.
Your second senior brother is probably... Ha!
Ye Danxia's eyes reddened slightly.
Master, that day, this disciple truly didn't know second senior brother. Otherwise this disciple would have stopped him. But in the end, all of this started because of this disciple. Seeing him suffer such humiliation now really pains this disciple.
Zhao Wuji let out a sigh.
There's nothing we can do. We agreed back then. As long as Jinghong's life was spared for 3 months, Yunjin could use him however she wanted.
Although Xiaojing is my friend, her personality has changed drastically lately. She became someone I can no longer understand. Master, she now has complete control over second senior brother. Today, she made him go mad in the spirit fields. What about tomorrow? Could she command him to kill someone? What if she orders him to assassinate me or even you, Master? Will you kill second senior brother? Or just let him do as he pleases?
Ye Danxia said softly. Zhao Wuji's expression also changed slightly. This was indeed a problem.
Master, this matter must be stopped.
Ye Danxia said firmly. Just imagine. If it were her who had such a servant, she would definitely find a way to kill Yunjin. Yunjin would certainly think the same. Gu Jinghong may once have been her second senior brother, but now, he was nothing more than an enemy. Chapter 85. I'm very worried about you, Zhao Wuji's expression kept shifting, then gradually turned indifferent.
Now that the master servant contract is in place, what can be done?
Master, back then it was only said that senior brother Wu would be handed over to Yunjing for punishment, but it was never said that Yunjing could use senior brother Gu to harm others. Today, Yunjing used senior brother Gu and nearly cost 5 senior brothers their lives. Many people also witnessed this. If Yunjing can use senior brother Gu to take personal revenge today, who knows what she might make him do tomorrow?
Ye Danxia quickly added.
Master, if you speak out against Yunjing's actions from the perspective of protecting the other disciples, it would be entirely reasonable, and no one would be able to say you were wrong.
Zhao Wuji's eyes shifted slightly.
I will consider it.
Master,
Ye Danxia said softly.
second senior brother is being ordered around like this. His heart must be filled with suffering. I only felt sorry for his current situation, that's all.
As she spoke, her eyes turned slightly red. Seeing this, Zhao Wuji couldn't help but feel a little moved. That day, Ye Danxia had pushed all the blame onto Gu Jinghong without hesitation. Though he hadn't shown anything outwardly, deep down, he had been somewhat bothered by it. He didn't want to give his all, only to raise a white-eyed wolf in return. But seeing Danxia like this today, it did seem she was truly worried for Jinghong. Thinking it over carefully, if she hadn't mentioned Jinghong's name that day, she would have been branded as someone with an evil aura on the spot, and never able to clear her name. She was just a child, and in her extreme fear at the time, it was understandable that she acted that way. She shouldn't be judged too harshly.
Master, I beg you, please save second senior brother.
Ye Danxia said, her voice trembling.
With second senior brother's pride, if he knew Yunjing would use him this way, he would have rather died than suffer this humiliation.
As she pleaded for someone to save second senior brother, her words also seemed to hint that perhaps letting Gu Jinghong die would be the best outcome.
Your master already took note. You may leave now.
Zhao Wuji sighed and said. Ye Danxia knew she couldn't say anything more at this point. She gently wiped away her tears and then withdrew. Once she left the main hall, Ye Danxia lowered her gaze, hiding the coldness in her eyes. That day, she saw it perfectly clear. After pointing her finger at Gu Jinghong, there was a faint trace of hatred in his eyes as he looked at her. Coincidentally, Yunjing also hated her to the bone. She wouldn't believe for a second that the two of them together wouldn't target her. Moreover, 3 months from now, if Gu Jinghong were allowed to return to Master's side, with the resentment he held toward her, would he really let her go? The best outcome now was for Gu Jinghong to die. To never, ever return. But right now, she was still too weak and couldn't do much. Everything was dependent on Master. She already said everything she needed to today. What she had to do next was to show her brilliance, to make Master personally eliminate everything that posed a threat to her. Or perhaps she should also let Master see with his own eyes just how dangerous senior brother Gu had become. Only then would Master make up his mind. Night. Gu Jinghong received a voice transmission talisman from Ye Danxia. As the talisman burned, Ye Danxia's gentle and worried voice came through.
Second senior brother, I heard you were forced to do many things you dislike. Are you still alright? These past few days, I've been really worried about you. You haven't contacted me at all. Are you angry with me? That day, it must have been Yunjing playing tricks that made me into some so-called evil key person. Second senior brother, I only said your name out of panic. If I knew Yunjing's methods were so cruel, I would have rather died than ever spoken your name. Senior brother, I'm truly so worried about you. I'm waiting just outside Heavenly Sword Peak right now. Please, I beg you, come see me just once.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa! So, you're secretly contacting outsiders behind my master's back? Tell me, are you trying to become a traitor?
The iron-eating beast shouted at him. Gu Jinghong frowned slightly, then walked straight out the door.
Human! Where are you going? Did this beast give you permission to wander off?
The iron-eating beast hurriedly chased after him. No way it had to tell the master. This bad man was probably about to betray them. The master should just kill him already. Just as the iron-eating beast reached the door, it saw Gu Jinghong knock on Yunjin's door. The beast couldn't help but follow. Yunjin opened the door and let both of them in. Gu Jinghong got straight to the point and told her about Ye Danxia contacting him in secret. Gungun nodded repeatedly, confirming that this bad guy wasn't lying for once. Yunjin listened carefully, her gaze toward Gu Jinghong becoming somewhat strange. She couldn't help but say,
So now you're tattling on Ye Danxia to me?
"Oh, that wasn't how it went in her previous life. In her past life, this Gu Jinghong was obsessed with Ye Danxia and was madly in love with her. He was her number one simp who would bang his head against walls for her. Although some things have changed in this life, wasn't this change a bit too extreme?" Gu Jinghong didn't quite understand the teasing look in Yunjin's eyes. He simply analyzed calmly.
Junior sister Yi is a self-serving person. Since she didn't contact me before, there's no reason for her to do so now. If she suddenly wants to meet, something must be off.
He didn't even know where. Ye Danxia got the confidence to think he'd obediently go out and meet her.
What you said makes a lot of sense.
Yunjin nodded.
But aren't people in love usually brainless?
In love.
Gu Jinghong frowned.
Didn't you have a secret crush on Ye Danxia?
Yunjin pointed out directly. Gu Jinghong paused for a moment, then said in a calm voice,
Why would you say that? I only knew junior sister Ye for a few days, and we've barely interacted. How could there be any talk of a secret crush?
This stunned Yunqing. In the novel, it was written very clearly. All of Ye Danxia's senior brothers fell in love with her at first sight. Just one glance, and they loved her down to their bones, willing to defy the world for her. And Gu Jinghong was the most extreme one. But in this life, things seem to have changed. Come to think of it, even the other disciples in the sect didn't seem to adore Ye Danxia as much as the book described. Most of them even kept their distance from her. Even Yunjin found it hard to believe all this was due to her own efforts. Because in the novel, people's love for Ye Danxia went far beyond rationality. Wasn't she the protagonist of the book? Yunjin had always understood this as a kind of strange protagonist halo. This halo usually existed on male and female leads and could unconditionally influence everyone around them. But in this life, thinking carefully, Ye Danxia's protagonist halo didn't seem as strong as in the previous life. Or maybe Yunjin's constant suppression of her was slowly weakening that halo. The true reason was unclear, but Yunjin didn't mind continuing to push her down until this so-called heroine could never rise again. And so, Yunjin looked at Gu Jinghong with a slight smile.
Since she wants to meet you, then go.
Gu Jinghong couldn't help but pause slightly. Chapter 86. Afraid he won't die. Late at night. Dense forest. Ye Danxia waited with some nervousness. She didn't know whether Gu Jinghong would be willing to see her. If he didn't come at all, then she would have to think of another way. At that moment, the wind rustled through the trees. Ye Danxia suddenly turned to look behind her. She saw Gu Jinghong standing there, calmly watching her.
Second senior brother.
Ye Danxia's face lit up with joy, her eyes instantly turning red.
I thought you never wanted to see me again.
Gu Jinghong frowned slightly. He was very clear in his heart about what kind of person Ye Danxia was. But for some reason, facing her like this, seeing her current expression, he couldn't help but feel his heart slightly softened. It was almost as if he'd seen a ghost. Gu Jinghong suppressed that feeling and asked coldly,
Junior sister Ye, why are you looking for me? I have many things to do tomorrow, and would like to go back and rest early.
Ye Danxia's gaze shifted slightly, and she put on an indignant expression.
Second senior brother. I heard everything that happened today. How could that Yunjin treat you like that? It's outrageous.
So,
Gu Jinghong replied indifferently.
Junior sister Ye, you should know that under the master-servant contract, I'm not allowed to even harbor discontent toward her, otherwise it'll be sensed immediately. I managed to come out tonight with great difficulty. If you have something to say, please get to the point. If I'm discovered, I won't end up well.
His voice was flat, but Ye Danxia seemed to hear endless bitterness behind it. Her eyes lit up, and she hurried to say,
Second senior brother, tell me honestly, is Yunjin trying to make you do things that violate sect rules? For example, had she ordered you to find a chance to kill those 5 senior brothers who offended her? Or told you to steal the rare herbs from the spirit fields? If she really did that, those would be serious crimes. When the time comes, I'll report it to Master so he can punish her according to the sect rules.
顾景洪 calmly looked at 叶丹霞, then suddenly asked.
So you're suggesting I betray Yunqin?
叶丹霞 quickly said.
How is that betrayal? Yunjing is clearly in the wrong. I just can't stand to see you being treated this way, so I want to help you regain your dignity.
The corners of 顾景洪's lips curled slightly. His voice was soft, and his smile carried a trace of mockery.
Dear little junior sister.
顾景洪 suddenly stepped forward. 叶丹霞's heart jolted, and she instinctively took a step back. Forcing herself to stay calm, she said.
Second senior brother, did I say something wrong?
顾景洪 began to clap slowly.
Not at all. Everything you said was right. Little junior sister's scheme truly left me speechless.
What scheme?
叶丹霞 feigned ignorance.
You want me to report Yunqin naturally, she'd be punished by the sect. But with the contract in place in her fury, she could use its power to kill me at any time. So, Yunqin gets punished by the sect, and I die a miserable death. Wouldn't that take care of both your biggest threats at once?
顾景洪 said with a light chuckle. 叶丹霞's heart jumped.
Second senior brother, how could you think that way? With Master and the others around, she wouldn't dare kill someone recklessly.
顾景洪 said softly.
Maybe she would stay calm in the beginning. But what if you deliberately told her I betrayed her? She's already furious, and she holds my life in her hands. If she kills me in a fit of rage, that's perfectly reasonable, isn't it?
叶丹霞's gaze flickered.
Second senior brother, maybe I didn't think this through enough. I just didn't want to see you being used like that.
顾景洪 stared coldly at her. After a long silence, he said in a frosty tone.
Thanks for your concern, little junior sister. But it's only 3 months, I can endure it. It's getting late. I'll be leaving now.
He turned to go. Suddenly, a muffled groan came from behind him. 顾景洪 turned back in surprise. He saw that, at some point, 叶丹霞 had drawn a small dagger, and that dagger was now lodged in her own abdomen. She pulled the dagger out, and fresh blood began to flow. Leaning against a tree, she seemed to be in pain. 顾景洪 narrowed his eyes. Amidst the blood, 叶丹霞 revealed a smile.
Second senior brother, this is the dagger you gave me. I always kept it, and had never taken it out.
She said softly.
Know that it's stabbed into my body. Who do you think did it?
顾景洪 narrowed his eyes further.
It's you?
叶丹霞 said with a light laugh.
You were ordered by Yunjin, and used my guilt to lure me out, then tried to kill me. The two of you, one gave the order, the other carried it out. You both tried to murder a fellow sect disciple? Isn't that a capital offense?
顾景洪 laughed uncontrollably. So it turns out, everything she said earlier was just a diversion. She likely never expected him to actually accuse Yunjin. This was her real killing move. This little junior sister of his truly didn't intend to leave him even a sliver of a chance at survival. Good. Very good.
Senior brother Wu, look. I'm bleeding.
叶丹霞 said with a smile as she saw 顾景洪 still relatively calm.
It's fresh human blood. Don't you want to drink it?
The scent of blood directly stimulated all of 顾景洪's senses. He pressed his lips tightly together. The side effect of cultivating the blood qi art was a craving for blood. At the end of the day, he was a righteous cultivator. Saying weird things about drinking blood was one thing. He never actually dared to do it. Under normal circumstances, he would buy beast blood in secret to suppress the urge. But ever since Yunjin contracted him, he hadn't had any fresh beast blood for several days. 顾景洪 stared at 叶丹霞's wound. His eyes slowly began to redden, and he couldn't help but step forward and grab the dagger. Bit by bit, his reason slipped away. Gripping the blade, 顾景洪 suddenly thrust it toward 叶丹霞. But instead of fear, 叶丹霞 smiled in joy. The next moment, the dagger struck. A protective barrier lit up on her body. It was a defensive magic item Zhao Wuji had given her. Once danger was detected, it would activate automatically. It could block a fatal attack from someone at the nascent soul stage. Although it wouldn't last long, it would be more than enough time for Zhao Wuji to arrive. 顾景洪, who had already lost all reason, furiously stabbed at the protective barrier. Before long, Zhao Wuji arrived in a hurry. When he saw Gu Jinghong's crazed appearance, his expression turned furious. This bastard! He really was trying to kill Danxia. With a light flick of his sleeve, Zhao Wuji sent Gu Jinghong flying. Gu Jinghong slammed heavily into a tree. His meridians shattered, his bones dislocated. The intense pain left him unable to move, but it also brought back some of his clarity. Lying on the ground, Gu Jinghong numbly stared up at the starry sky. This is his master, his junior sister. He was completely and utterly abandoned.
Unfilial disciple!
Zhao Wuji looked at Ye Danxia in this state, filled with uncontrollable rage, and raised his hand to strike again. Ye Danxia quickly said,
Master, you can't blame second senior brother for this. Hey, he was just being used. The one who truly wanted to harm me is someone else.
It was Yunjin.
Zhao Wuji said coldly.
I will naturally deal with that Yunjin. But this disgraceful disciple dared to raise a hand against you. No matter what, I cannot forgive him. I must.
Must what? A crisp voice suddenly rang out. Yunjin, smiling brightly, appeared in the depths of the forest. Chapter 83. Public Trial Yunjin. Zhao Wuji's expression turned cold as he shouted.
Yunjin, ever since you entered the sect, you've been arrogant and unruly, showing no regard for rules. But out of care for my disciples, I protected you again and again. And this is how you repay me. It's true that Jinghong signed a master-servant contract with you, and agreed to be dealt with at your discretion. But that doesn't mean you can hurt others as you pleased. Today, you ordered Jinghong to injure Danxia like this. If I hadn't arrived in time, Danxia might have lost her life. What do you have to say for yourself?
Zhao Wuji spoke in a voice filled with fury. Yunjin glanced at Ye Danxia. Ye Danxia clutched her abdomen, her face pale.
Xiaojing, I thought since we grew up together, even if we've had some disagreements, there was still some bond between us. Do you hate me so much that you had to go this far?
As she spoke, she began coughing violently. More blood oozed from her wound. Zhao Wuji looked heartbroken. He rushed forward and, without hesitation, fed Ye Danxia a healing pill.
Master?
Ye Danxia swallowed the pill and tightly grasped Zhao Wuji's sleeve.
Xiaojing is still someone I grew up with. No matter what, I don't really want her life. Please, Master, show mercy.
You really are.
Zhao Wuji looked at his little disciple with a gaze full of admiration for her kindness. Yunjin finished watching the little show and turned expressionlessly to Gu Jinghong, who was still lying on the ground. Gu Jinghong remained in the same position, looking up at the sky, unmoving. Yunjin walked over. Gu Jinghong looked at her, his lips trembling.
Sorry,
Idiot.
Yunjin snorted coldly and kicked him.
Just a little blood and you went mad? After all these years of living, what have you even accomplished?
Gu Jinghong. Early nascent soul stage. Blood Art. Level force currently in a weakened state after frenzy.
Gu Jinghong felt numb. He only softly repeated.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't for tonight, but for what had happened before. Now, he truly regretted it. Deeply, bitterly regretted it. How could that Ye Danxia be worth him ending up like this? If Yunjin didn't dodge the trap that day, he would have been thoroughly played by that little junior sister. Ye Danxia seemed to have some kind of charm, an allure that made it hard to look away. If Gu Jinghong hadn't personally experienced her hypocritical nature several times, he wouldn't have been able to truly wake up. Yunjin coldly snorted and stuffed 2 rejuvenation pills into his mouth. As she did, her heart ached. These rejuvenation pills were painstakingly refined by her. Using them on Gu Jinghong felt like a huge waste. But there was no helping it. She still needed him later. The pills Yunjin refined were second-grade rejuvenation pills, typically used by Foundation establishment stage cultivators. However, hers were perfect quality, strong enough to be effective even for golden core cultivators. Gu Jinghong is at the nascent soul stage. But his dantian and vital organs weren't damaged. Using the pills to repair his meridians and bones was still possible. Normally, rejuvenation pills were extremely valuable. Unless the dantian was harmed, people wouldn't use them lightly. In most cases, a cheaper Du pill would suffice. So when the pill entered his stomach, Gu Jinghong was stunned. This feeling was definitely a rejuvenation pill. And judging by the medicinal strength, it might even be a third-grade rejuvenation pill. A third-grade rejuvenation pill could restore the dantian of a golden core cultivator. In the right situation, it was worth a fortune. And now, Yunjing had just casually given him one to heal some broken bones and torn meridians. His injuries would have recovered on their own with time. Gu Jinghong's lips trembled. She was actually willing to use something so precious on someone like him.
What's with that look?
Yunjin slapped his face with annoyance.
Hurry up and absorb the medicinal power.
Gu Jinghong fell silent for a moment, then nodded firmly and began to absorb the energy.
Why are you so slow?
Yunjin grew impatient. She pulled out another rejuvenation pill and shoved it into his mouth. Since she had refined them herself, she had a large stock on hand. Gu Jinghong's neck was still too stiff to turn. He hadn't seen that the pill was transparent. But based on the medicinal strength, he could tell it was probably another third-grade rejuvenation pill. His face changed color. As the sect master's second disciple, no one knew better than him how the sect master privately suppressed Heavenly Sword Peak. With Huodie from Divine Pill Peak cooperating, Heavenly Sword Peak could barely obtain any quality pills. So how difficult must it have been for Yunjin to save up these few third-grade rejuvenation pills? And yet, she gave them to him without hesitation. Gu Jinghong pressed his lips tightly together, feeling a strange bitterness. The master and junior sister he had done everything to protect had tried to drive him to death. And Yunjin, who he once schemed against, had taken out precious pills to heal his injuries. This world is truly absurd. By the time Gu Jinghong could barely stand, Ye Danxia, thanks to Zhao Wuji personally helping circulate the medicine's effects, had regained some color in her face. But on her abdomen, the horrifying wound still remained, as if deliberately left behind. Zhao Wuji was busy healing Ye Danxia earlier, and didn't pay much attention to Yunjin and Gu Jinghong. In his view, those two were already doomed, and not worth the effort to worry about. But seeing that Gu Jinghong managed to stand so soon after had surprised Zhao Wuji a little. He noticed Yunjin feeding him something earlier, but hadn't seen what it was exactly. Judging from the result, it seemed to be quite effective. The people of Heavenly Sword Peak really did favor Yunjin, giving her pills potent enough to work on a nascent soul cultivator, yet allowing a foundation establishment disciple to carry them around so casually. Zhao Wuji couldn't be bothered to look into it further. He said coldly,
Yunjin, Gu Jinghong, you two have harmed a fellow disciple. That is a capital offense. I have decided.
Whether it's a capital offense or not, the sect master alone may not be qualified to make that decision so lightly.
Lin Ya's voice came from a distance. Zhao Wuji frowned. When he turned around, he saw that Lin Ya and several people from Heavenly Sword Peak had arrived without his noticing.
What? Are you planning to protect these two murderers?
Zhao Wuji said coldly. Lin Ya had already been informed by Yunjin in advance, so now he remained composed.
Protect. Back then, didn't Ranjun try to kill Xiaojing? And yet, isn't he still alive and well?
Zhao Wuji replied coldly.
How is that the same? If I hadn't arrived in time today, Danxia would be dead. Even so, she was gravely injured and nearly lost her life. If I didn't have pills on hand, she would have already lost her life.
Lin Ya glanced at Ye Danxia, pale and pitiful in Zhao Wuji's arms, and gave a slight smile. He said calmly,
As for how Ye Danxia was injured, I have my doubts. If the sect master insists on passing judgment, then according to sect rules, the case must be submitted to the discipline hall for public trial. Given the severity of the matter, at least 5 peak master level elders must be present to observe.
Lin Ya fixed his gaze on Zhao Wuji.
A public trial is proper procedure. What does the sect master think?
Zhao Wuji frowned again. He looked down at the pitiful Ye Danxia in his arms and thought, since this matter was clearly Yunjin's doing, carried out by Gu Jinghong, and he hadn't interfered in any way, even if the matter were publicly judged, it would only serve to expose Yunjin's true face to everyone. Since that was the case, why not have a public trial? Zhao Wuji did not notice the flicker of unease on Ye Danxia's face. He replied coolly,
Then as you wish. Tomorrow at the discipline hall, we'll judge the case publicly. It's nothing more than letting your little disciple live one more night.
Zhao Wuji cast a cold glance at Yunjin. Yunjin rolled her eyes at him. Her eye-rolling skill was maxed out, and is guaranteed to deliver a perfect sense of sarcasm. Zhao Wuji's face turned slightly grim. He picked up Ye Danxia and turned to leave. Throughout the entire process, he didn't spare even a single glance for Gu Jinghong leaned against a tree, the corners of his lips curling into a faint, unreadable smile. Now that he was so thoroughly discarded, he no longer needed to hold back in anything he did. A trace of utter madness flickered in Gu Jinghong's eyes. Chapter 88. The young lady arrives. Gu Jinghong was laughing like a madman. Yunjin was so furious that she couldn't help but kick him.
Laugh, laugh, laugh. Now you can laugh, huh? After eating 3 of my rejuvenation pills, you're all smiles. Do you have any idea how hard it was for me to get those 3 pills?
Rejuvenation pills. Difficult. The disciples from Heavenly Sword Peak all turned to look at Yunjin in unison. Right now, if nothing else, Heavenly Sword Peak has an abundance of beating pills, foundation establishment pills, and rejuvenation pills. In fact, to give Yunjin more options, Yue Zhao had even been thinking about finding more pill recipes for her. It was just that, over at Baicao Pavilion, he bragged about being elite disciples from a prestigious sect. Would top-tier disciples lack pill recipes? If they wanted to buy recipes, they had to do it cautiously and slowly. Another way to get recipes was by exchanging contribution points from Elder Ming. However, all of them were saving up their points to redeem the recipe for the heaven-mending pill. That was a 7th grade pill. Even though it was just a recipe, and no one in the sect could currently refine it, it was still shockingly expensive. So, for now, buying recipes had been put on hold. But Yue Zhao already made a mental note that once things were safe, he'd personally handle it. The disciples of Heavenly Sword Peak were well aware of the origin of those rejuvenation pills, but Gu Jinghong didn't know. He couldn't help but press his lips together. 3rd grade rejuvenation pills were even more valuable than many 4th grade pills. Yet Yunjin had given them to him without hesitation. That alone proved she was someone with a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. Compared to people like Zhao Wuji and Ye Danxia, who smiled on the surface but hid God knows what beneath, Yunjin was far better. Supporting himself with a body not fully yet healed, Gu Jinghong bent his waist slightly.
Master, this time I nearly ruined everything and wasted such precious pills. I ask you to punish me.
Under the cold moonlight, the corners of Gu Jinghong's lips were still tinged with red, making him look especially striking. Si Wanning couldn't help but click her tongue in amazement. Although Gu Jinghong was a bit twisted, one had to admit, his looks were incredibly stunning. Now that he had fallen into little junior sister's hands, he even had a touch of that beautifully abused charm. Tisk's task. All one could say was that everyone gets their retribution. And Gu Jinghong's retribution was little junior sister. Yunjin lifted her chin slightly.
Punishment? Of course there will be punishment. There's still work to be done tomorrow, so I'll let you off for today. I'll take my time thinking of how to deal with you properly.
Gu Jinghong bowed his head.
Yes, Master.
Lin Ya lightly cleared his throat.
Then let's leave it here for today. We've got a public trial tomorrow.
No one seemed the slightest bit worried about this public trial. They all quickly dispersed. The next day, Zhao Wuji couldn't wait to give the order, and called for the discipline hall to publicly try Yunjin for attempting to harm a fellow disciple. The discipline hall was full of his own lackeys, so the motion passed quickly. According to procedure, Zhao Wuji, Huolie, Fang Mingyue, Longyi, and Lin Ya were present to observe. These attendees were chosen by Zhao Wuji. Huolie and Longyi had long been his allies, and would naturally take his side. Fang Mingyue was always neutral, so including her would make the trial look impartial. As for Lin Ya, he included him just so he could witness firsthand how his precious disciple would be convicted. The thought of Lin Ya's grim expression gave Zhao Wuji immense satisfaction. The trial was held in the Great Hall. Yue Nin, the head of the discipline hall, sat in the central seat. The 5 observers were seated on either side. Below them stood the two opposing parties. Because it was a public trial, anyone could come watch to ensure the verdict was fair.
Did you hear? Yunjing allegedly ordered Gu Jinghong to harm Ye Dansai. The trial's being held today.
Again? Those two really don't stop texts.
It's always Ye Dansai going after Yunjin and Yunjin striking back. Maybe now she's lost her patience and decided to have Gu Jinghong get rid of her.
Hard to say.
Come on, let's go watch the show.
Although Yunjin and Ye Danxia were both new disciples, they were extremely well known. Since entering the sect, they called each other sister with increasing affection, but their mutual backstabbing was just as intense. Some gossipy disciples even compiled a scoreboard of their matches. Result: Yunjin, total victory. Someone even made a slogan: Will Yunjin the victorious remain undefeated? Let's all witness it live. Most public trials were dry and boring with few in attendance. But this time, before the trial even began, the great hall was packed wall to wall.
Make way.
Someone shouted. Those in front were displeased.
We all fought hard for our front row seats. And now you want us to move. Just because you said so.
The person hesitated, then said,
But I'm Yunjin.
So what if you're...
A disciple began, then turned and saw Yunjin's helpless expression. A few steps behind her stood a pale-faced Gu Jinghong. The disciple's face turned red and immediately recovered.
It's junior sister Yun and senior brother Gu. Make way, make way. If they don't come in, there's no show to watch.
He seemed to accidentally speak the truth. Embarrassed, the disciple gave Yunjin an awkward glance.
Nala.
Yunjin nodded seriously.
Don't worry, senior brother. I'll do my best today to guarantee a good show for everyone.
Then she raised her voice even louder.
Brothers? Sisters, I know your cultivation lives are boring, just endless training every day. Isn't such a dull life in need of a little excitement? So long as I, Yunjin, am here, there will always be thrills and drama. If any of your friends haven't shown up yet, go ahead and message them. Miss it and regret it forever. If you don't show up, are you even from Tianxin sect?
The crowd's mood instantly surged. Zhao Wuji's face turned completely black. He looked at Yue Lin.
Hall Master? Yeah, are you going to allow this kind of disruption?
Yue Lin's heart trembled. He quickly shouted sternly.
Yunjin, enough chatter! Step forward at once!
Ye Danxia had already arrived. She was even given a chair and sat there, playing the delicate and weak victim. Yunjin finished stirring up the crowd. With Gu Jinghong behind her, she walked through the path the disciples had cleared. Gu Jinghong consciously stayed half a step behind Yunjin, fully aware of his role as a servant. Yunjin stepped forward, her eyes landing immediately on Ye Danxia, seated in a chair. The issue was, Ye Danxia had a chair. She did not. What's the meaning of that? She refused to tolerate this kind of insult. Yunjin narrowed her eyes, about to speak. But Gu Jinghong silently stepped forward.
Second senior brother,
Ye Danxia started. Gu Jinghong suddenly reached out, grabbed her, and flung her aside onto the floor. Then he took out a handkerchief, carefully wiped the chair, and respectfully placed it next to Yunjin. Yunjin grinned. For once, this psycho didn't seem so annoying.
Well done,
Yunjin said, actually praising him, then sat down leisurely. Gu Jinghong gave a slight smile and stood respectfully behind her, the perfect image of a servant. The entire setup looked less like a public trial, and more like the grand entrance of a young lady. Chapter 89. A flaw. Ye Danxia, thrown to the ground, revealed a look of disbelief. Even though she knew, after everything that had happened, Gu Jinghong would never care for her again. Still, when he truly showed her no mercy, and instead attentively served another woman, Ye Danxia couldn't help but felt waves of resentment. It felt like everything that used to belong to her was now being forcefully taken away by Yunjin. Zhao Wuji looked at Ye Danxia's pitiful appearance, and couldn't stop himself from shouting angrily.
Arrogant. Far too arrogant. Gu Jinghong, you're only supposed to serve as her servant for 3 months. Yet you've completely learned her arrogant and domineering ways. Your own little junior sister was already injured this badly by you. And not only do you feel no remorse, you even lay hands on her again. How is such behavior any different from that of a demon?
Zhao Wuji couldn't personally come down himself, but with just a glance, a few disciples naturally stepped forward and helped Ye Danxia up. Ye Danxia stood there weakly and aggrieved, softly saying,
Master, please don't blame second senior brother. I can stand just fine.
As she spoke, Ye Danxia gave Yunjing a pitiful glance. Actually, adding another chair would have been easy, but she simply couldn't stand the sight of Yunjing taking the seat that originally belonged to her.
What are you looking at?
Yunjing raised her chin.
I happen to be short on a maid. Why don't you stand behind me and be my maid? Then I won't hold that previous matter against you.
Yunjing was completely serious. This was her genuinely offering Ye Danxia an opportunity. Ye Danxia couldn't help showing a trace of humiliation on her face. She looked at Yunjing in disbelief. They were about to begin a public trial. Yet how could this woman still be so bold and unrestrained? She is a noble celestial spirit root cultivator. Be her maid. She must be dreaming. She was just about to speak, but Gu Jinghong spoke up first in a pitiful tone.
Master, I don't want to stand next to her.
Isn't having me as your servant enough? Yunjing gave him a glance, slightly annoyed.
The more servants I have, the better. You're not qualified to have any opinions.
Gu Jinghong's eyes turned slightly red, looking even more aggrieved. He even glared at Ye Danxia, as if treating her as some sort of imaginary rival. Ye Danxia. Who? Has her second senior brother gone mad? Ye Danxia couldn't help but say,
Xiaojin, you ordered second senior brother to injure me. I'm the victim here. I'm even willing to give you a chance. Why don't you be my maid? And we'll call it even?
As she said this, she felt like she regained the upper hand and finally smiled. Yunjing gave her a calm glance.
Since you've already made your decision, then there's no chance to regret it. Ye Danxia, you'd best take care of yourself.
Though Yunjing spoke lightly, Ye Danxia's heart gave a sudden jolt. Did she leave some kind of flaw in what happened last night? Why was Yunjing so confident?
Hall Master Ye, what are you standing there dazing off for? Why don't you start the trial already?
Yunjing looked over at Yuelin, clearly annoyed. One sat high, the other low. But in terms of presence alone, it felt like Yunjing was the judge. Yuelin gritted his teeth. Who was the one dazing off? Weren't you talking nonstop, not giving me a chance to speak? Yuelin let out a cold snort and said,
Last night, Gu Jinghong used Ye Danxia's feelings of guilt to lure her to Heavenly Sword Peak. In the forest, he gravely injured her and then attempted to kill her. If not for the defensive artifact she carried, Ye Danxia would have already been dead. At that time, Yunjin was hiding not far away. Given the master-servant contract between them, we reasonably suspect Gu Jinghong's actions were under Yunjin's orders. These events were witnessed by the sect leader himself and cannot be false. Now, according to sect rules, this matter will be publicly tried. Yunjin, do you have any objections to what I've just described?
As Yuelin finished, he glared hard at Yunjin. Last time, Ruanjun suffered greatly at Yunjin's hands, and had to go into closed-door cultivation in the back mountains. He himself had to endure Zhao Wuji's indifference for quite a while. Zhao Wuji cherished this little disciple the most. This time, with Ye Danxia involved, he had to handle it cleanly and thoroughly.
I object.
Jin said lazily.
Everything you just said is complete nonsense.
Yuelin's expression changed on the spot. Zhao Wuji immediately burst into anger.
Yunjin. I saw it with my own eyes. How could it be false?
Sect leader.
Kang Yunjin looked at him in disbelief.
Even mortals know that seeing isn't necessarily believing. With your level of cultivation, how can you still say something so absurd?
Zhao Wuji's face darkened.
Then explain. How could it be false? The wounds on Danxia's body are still clearly visible.
Ye Danxia took the chance to show a weak expression. Yunjin replied unhurriedly.
According to what the hall master just said, Wu Jinghong injured her in the first strike, and then tried to kill her afterward, right?
Li nodded.
Such actions are truly inhuman?
Although I agree with you in calling him inhuman.
Jin smoked.
I have one question. Ye Danxia survived his attack because she had a defensive artifact, correct? So if she could be ambushed, how could the auto-defensive artifact also be ambushed?
What nonsense are you spouting?
Yuelin began to speak, but suddenly his expression changed.
If it's a passive defensive artifact, then it should have responded at the very first moment she was ambushed. How could Gu Jinghong have severely injured her?
Yunjin pointed out.
This.
Sweat suddenly formed on Yuelin's forehead. He unconsciously glanced at the sect leader. Zhao Wuji also had a flash of surprise in his eyes. He turned to look at Ye Danxia. There was indeed something odd about the chain of events.
Danxia,
Yunjin looked at the flustered Ye Danxia with a bright smile.
I heard that this type of artifact only fails to activate under one condition, when the user harms themselves. It's quite clear now where that wound on your body came from.
The surrounding crowd immediately erupted into whispers. There really was something off with this story. So Ye Danxia actually stabbed herself to frame Gu Jinghong. That was too ruthless. Everyone's gaze toward the seemingly delicate and weak Ye Danxia subtly changed. Even the senior brother who had been teaching Ye Danxia herb identification began to rethink his impression. Even if this junior sister Ye had great talent, it was better to keep some distance. One must remember, Gu Jinghong ended up in this state because he stood up for her. Yet she didn't hesitate at all to scheme against him. If it were oneself, no matter how wholeheartedly one taught her, if any conflict arose in the future, she would definitely not hold back. Ye Danxia seemed to sense this change, and her eyes immediately turned red. Her voice trembled.
You're spouting nonsense?
Her mind raced, and she spoke slowly.
That defensive artifact of mine was specially refined by Master. It's an artifact that requires active activation. I didn't expect senior brother Wu to attack me at first, so I didn't activate it, which is how he succeeded.
As she spoke, Ye Danxia looked pleadingly at Zhao Wuji. Normally, life-saving artifacts given to low-level disciples would automatically activate upon sensing an attack. The artifact Zhao Wuji gave to Ye Danxia had no reason not to include this function. What Ye Danxia said just now was a gamble. A gamble that Zhao Wuji would be biased toward her. A gamble that Zhao Wuji would help her cover up this lie. Chapter 90. She doesn't mind, I do. Zhao Wuji's expression darkened slightly. He fixed his gaze on the disciple he favored most. He didn't even know why, but he always felt an unusual affinity toward Ye Danxia. During the entrance exam for new disciples, the first moment he laid eyes on a Ye Danxia, he felt she was suited to become his disciple. What followed didn't need to be said. Both Ruan Jun and Gu Jinghong's troubles were, to some degree, related to her. Those were disciples he painstakingly cultivated. And yet all because of Ye Danxia. One was now in seclusion, while the other became someone's servant. He should have been furious, should have been angry. But whenever he saw Ye Danxia, he just couldn't bring himself to be mad. He always felt that none of it was truly her fault. That it was all because Yunjin pushed too hard, refusing to let things go. But this time, he really didn't expect for Ye Danxia to lie to him. Last night, when he saw the severity of her wounds, Zhao Wuji nearly lost control and almost crippled Gu Jinghong then and there. He never once doubted Ye Danxia. So when Yunjin raised that doubt, he was truly stunned. That's right. That protective artifact was supposed to activate automatically upon being attacked. Then how did Ye Danxia's first injury happen? He indeed personally witnessed Gu Jinghong going insane, trying to kill her. But at that time, the shield was already activated, and it was clear that he hadn't broken through it. Such an obvious flaw. He didn't even consider it because he trusted Ye Danxia. Zhao Wuji couldn't help glancing at Gu Jinghong. Gu Jinghong calmly looked back at his master. He too wanted to know, how would Zhao Wuji choose this time?
Master?
Ye Danxia looked at Zhao Wuji, her voice sorrowful. Zhao Wuji looked at her. She looked so pitiful like this. It was truly heartbreaking. That child even said during the day that she feared Gu Jinghong would be used by Yunjin. Perhaps she was just too afraid. Because she was too afraid, she had no choice but to take such a desperate measure. Zhao Wuji's mind was spinning.
Sect Master.
Lin Ya said with interest.
So it was truly you who deliberately altered that life-saving artifact so that it would require manual activation. Although such a modification does seem rather unintelligent, if the sect master personally did it, then you surely had your reasons. We're all ears.
Ye Danxia merely looked pitifully at Zhao Wuji. Lin Ya's tone was laced with sarcasm. Zhao Wuji fell silent for a while, then said slowly,
Indeed, it was refined by me. I did that while mainly considering there shouldn't be any great danger within the sect. Even if something did happen, Danxia would have enough time to manually activate the artifact. When she goes on missions outside the sect in the future, she can switch to an automatically triggered one. I simply didn't expect Yunjin to be so bold as to harm her fellow disciples.
Ye Danxia immediately let out a long sigh of relief. Regardless of whether that explanation made logical sense. As long as it could be spoken aloud, who would dare question the sect master? Gu Jinghong lowered his gaze, a cold smile forming at the corners of his mouth. If Zhao Wuji made Ye Danxia admit fault the same way he once forced Gu Jinghong to do so, he could have still believed that his master was fair and just. As a result, he was even willing to gamble his reputation just to help Ye Danxia cover up this lie. Gu Jinghong didn't know why Zhao Wuji favored Ye Danxia so much, but he didn't need to know anymore. From now on, none of this had anything to do with him.
It is exactly as I said.
Zhao Wuji said slowly.
I have no reason to lie.
That protective jade pendant had already been used once and was now inactive. There was no way to verify it anymore. At this point, no one could prove he was covering for Ye Danxia. Zhao Wuji's thought process was simple. After last night's events, the master-disciple relationship between him and Gu Jinghong was beyond repair. But Ye Danxia still had a bright future ahead. Rather than trying to balance both sides, it was better to abandon one. Besides, a second disciple who now served Yunjin. He didn't want him anymore.
Xiaojin,
Ye Danxia now had the confidence to continue.
the flaw you pointed out is nothing more than your own overthinking. Senior brother Wu treats me so well. How could I possibly use such means to frame him? What would I gain? Even if he nearly killed me this time, I don't blame him. I know, it couldn't have been his true intent.
As she spoke, Ye Danxia looked toward Gu Jinghong with tears shimmering in her eyes. Gu Jinghong stood there like an old tree in meditation, eyes lowered, not even sparing her a glance. Ye Danxia felt a bit humiliated, but still put on a wounded expression at the right moment. She turned toward Zhao Wuji, and suddenly knelt down.
Master, I don't wish to pursue what happened last night any further. Xiaojing and I grew up together, and senior brother, Gu only ended up like this because of me. Though I was seriously injured, my life is not in danger. I ask you, Master, please let this matter go.
Ye Danxia looked sorrowful, with an expression that said she was unwilling to pursue the matter further. Zhao Wuji also understood at this point that this matter could not be investigated any deeper. He coughed twice and said some polite words.
Since Danxia has said so, I will respect her wishes and no longer pursue it. Yuelin, close the case.
Yuelin hurriedly responded.
Then this matter.
This matter has already been brought to trial, so naturally it must be thoroughly examined.
Yunjin suddenly interrupted Yuelin.
She doesn't want to pursue it. Then I will pursue it to the end.
Yunjin, don't go too far.
Zhao Wuji threatened faintly.
Yesterday, what were you trying to do by having Gu Jinghong find those 5 disciples? And what were you trying to do by sending him to the spiritual fields? I did promise that he would follow your orders, but did I say you could act so recklessly? Of course, these are all small matters that I can let go. I have said, all matters end here. Do you understand?
Yunjin gave him a brilliant smile.
End here. What is the discipline hall just for show? Isn't your hall master the actual head of the discipline hall? When did you, sect master, also take on that role? You say to start a public trial and it starts. You say to end it and it ends. With hall master Ye just sitting there, he seems entirely unnecessary. Don't you think so, hall master Yi?
Zhao Wuji's face darkened slightly. Yuelin felt like he was sitting on needles. It was true that he was Zhao Wuji's man. But this kind of thing shouldn't be made so obvious. Yuelin looked at Zhao Wuji. Since he hadn't spoken, Yuelin could only ask.
Even if she's not pursuing it, what more do you want?
She doesn't mind, but I do. I have never ordered Wu Jinghong to do anything that would harm others. Ye Danxia accuses me of instructing Wu Jinghong to kill her, and now I believe she injured herself deliberately to frame me. Then let's hold a public trial for this new accusation of mine.
Yunjin spoke calmly.
I also want to accuse the sect master of shielding his disciple and lying to everyone's face. I also want to accuse the head of the discipline hall of being unjust in his enforcement of the rules, turning what should be the sect's discipline hall into one that serves only the sect master's faction. And finally, I want to accuse all of you sitting up there, the 10 peak lords of Tianxing sect. Sounds grand when spoken of, but in the end you're just 10 puppets.
Yunjin seemed like she had gone mad, saying whatever she wanted. The surrounding disciples were instantly frightened by what they heard. But they couldn't deny it. They also felt an odd sense of satisfaction. Because the current Tianxing sect really was like that. All the good things went to the sect master's faction. Every decision favored his disciples. Clearly, everyone was at the same disciple level. But if you were under the sect master, it seemed you were instantly a cut above the rest. Yunjin simply said out loud what everyone else was too afraid to say.